I was going to buy episode Aigis for Persona 3, but then I saw the cost of a DLC that should have already been included in a $70 video game and thought, hey Atlas, why don't you take that $35 and shove it straight up your...
Damn straight it is. Disney brought him back. They're gonna make him do this till he's 90.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Oh, and there will be spoilers for the following things. You have been warned. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Seeing episode Aigis replace the answer from The Journey in Persona 3 FES made me think a lot about epilogues. In a lot of ways, if you think about it, sequels in and of themselves can be considered epilogues for the original story. Just look at something like Beetlejuice, because it's set so long after the first film. It kind of ties up 36 years worth of life and character development in a 2-hour box. And I didn't like that aspect of it because it felt like the Lydia from 36 years ago wouldn't develop into the Lydia that we see now. But unfortunately, this is not uncommon in movie sequels that happen decades after the original ended. Just look at something like The Last Jedi. There was a good percentage of the audience, maybe about 50%, that did not like the direction that Luke Skywalker went. I suppose you could insult these fans and call them giant man babies, but I do agree with them at least a little bit. I don't particularly enjoy when an already established hero is turned into a bitter loser. That is what happened to Luke in Star Wars, and that's what happened to Lydia in Beetlejuice. I consider them bitter losers because they forgot the lessons learned originally in the first movies.
Oh, I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Within fiction, a story is just a snippet of someone's life. You're taking the entirety of someone's lifespan and cutting down the most interesting bits for people to watch. Unless it's played for comedy, we're probably not going to watch someone be as sick as a dog and spend the whole day in the bathroom either sitting down or with their head pushed down into the bowl. Writers take the most interesting aspects of a character's life and put it out there for you to be entertained. And generally speaking, the events of the story will either change the world around the character or develop the characters themselves. When the most interesting aspects of a character's life is completed, we stop watching, but that doesn't mean that the character's life is over. One show that I think did an incredible job of demonstrating this was Adventure Time. If you think about it, Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake are technically epilogues to the original show. We see that the characters continue living long after we're done watching them. They still have problems that they need to work out. We see how Finn and Jake's lives play out through the eyes of other characters, or themselves at the very end. These were epilogues that were accepted and embraced by the audience, because generally speaking, how everyone ended up felt consistent with how they were being developed in the original show. Something similar happens in Joe Abercrombie's books. World issues, conflict, death, suffering, they all keep going long after the first trilogy is concluded. After the original story is over, we see what the main characters are doing with their lives through other people's eyes. And most of the time, we just see them going about their normal business. They have changed a little bit, but they're still basically the same people that we left off with. You could just call them cameos, but I often think of them as mini epilogues to what's happening in the characters' lives after I'm done observing them personally. And while these epilogues for Adventure Time and the First Law universe are generally well received, there are also plenty of times when the epilogue is not embraced by the audience at all.
Why won't you love me, Dad? I'll be anything you want me to be. I want you to be dead!
Just look at something like El Camino. Now, I am on record for saying that I think it's the perfect movie that came out at the wrong time. There are plenty of people that do not like El Camino, and I understand why. At the end of Breaking Bad, Jesse's fate was left ambiguous. He drove away from Walter, finally finding his freedom, but did he get to keep that freedom? Was he caught by the police? The audience got to decide for years until they didn't. And that's the problem with following up on an open-ended conclusion. You're giving a definitive answer to a question that people have been asking for years. You're going to have a hard time topping what people had in their heads already. One of the hardest aspects of storytelling is getting the audience expectations about here, but then delivering a product that is about here. You've got to over-deliver, and if you let the audience's expectations run wild for too long, you're never going to accomplish that. Epilogues like El Camino from Breaking Bad and episode Aigis from Persona 3 do a good job of giving a consistent story after the original story concluded. Jesse's actions immediately after Breaking Bad make sense with how he developed as a character and what happened to him. The same thing with C's from Persona 3. You might think that it's boring or sporadic, and that's understandable because you've had a long time to think about what was going to happen once you stopped watching. Some people were never going to be happy no matter what happened, but does that mean that the creator shouldn't have made these epilogues? To me, it depends on the reason why the epilogue or sequel was even made. Did someone have a creative vision for a story after the original story, or was it just because of money? Not to say that people can't have any financial incentive for making art. People do have to make a living after all just to exist, but still, that doesn't mean that you should make art just to make money. I think that might lead to some issues. The audience will be able to tell that your heart's not in it, they'll get angry, and it'll hurt your wallet more than if you just left everything alone.
It's not about money, it's about sending a message. Everything burns.
Of course, there is also the weird third option of it needing to happen because the world is locked down due to COVID. I mean, how many sitcom reunions happened online or through special face cam episodes? This exception was special because everyone involved, from the writers to the actors to the audience, craved some form of normalcy. It almost doesn't feel fair to compare these forms of epilogues to other versions, but they do exist, so I have to take note of them. There's a weird comfort in seeing characters from your past come into this wild situation and make it humorous, at least in some way. I think that everyone involved hopes that this never happens again, but the epilogues did add some levity to a very dire situation. This is far different from a situation where an author makes an epilogue or continues their work because none of their new projects work out. I'm looking at you, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and Boruto. Not a fan, and about 80% of the people that liked the original work aren't fans either. There are times when a continuation or an epilogue just isn't needed, and it actively hurts what came before it.
Future's now, old man.
And to be fair, there are plenty of people who think that episode Aigis, El Camino, and Adventure Time Distant Lands are in fact not necessary and do hurt the original stories. There are people that view those series as I view Boruto. Why are we continuing? There is already the line where we stopped. We should not go past that. It is up to debate, but for me personally, as long as there is a creative reason why this epilogue exists, then I'm okay with it. I understand building something up in your head and being disappointed with where the creators actually went. That happened with me with BoJack Horseman Season 4. Or disagreeing with a creative direction. What was it? Clanad After Story. I actually really liked how sad it was, but I don't think people wanted to go from the dating anime to that. I've learned to realize that just because you disagree with some of the creative decisions doesn't mean that art doesn't deserve to exist, even epilogues. But also, I do think that a lot of people in creative fields need to realize when they found the perfect ending and just leave it be. Please, don't touch it anymore. It's good. You're good. It's all good. The story is over. It is time to move on, and if you can't make anything new, then you gotta accept that your 15 minutes of fame are up.
Well, that's the end of me.
Stories are meant to end eventually, just like life. Even the examples I consider positive are done. Breaking Bad is done. Adventure Time is done. Persona 3 is done. Sometimes a small continuation is worth it. It can give the fans what they want and emphasize a few of the themes. But if you go back to the well a few too many times, then you're going to poison it. Hell, coming back to it at all is probably going to make you lose more fans and get you new ones. There's no hard and fast rules for all of this. A lot of it comes down to feelings. Does this feel like it needs to exist? Does it feel like a cash grab? Does it feel like a desperate ploy for more attention? Then you probably shouldn't make it. But if it feels like there's a creative vision involved and a respectful continuation for the characters, then I'm all for it. But what do you think? Do you think I'm completely wrong about these epilogues and continuations? Do you think that I'm right? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with all of this, that's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Oh, you're expecting a teaser for Deadpool 2. Well, we don't have that kind of money.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody. Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.